Welcome dear students, hope you all are doing well. This is Tahir Aliakat, lecturer from University of Education Mehari campus. Basically, we are discussing a series of SDLC models. We discussed various traditional models like waterfall model, spiral model, V model, Big Bang model, and etc. So, there are certain more models which are different from the traditional one. So the model which we are going to discuss today is called Agile Model. Objective of today's lecture are after discussing this lecture or after attending this lecture, the students will be able to define Agile Model. They can understand the mechanism of Agile Model, and you can differentiate between Agile and other SDLC models. So let's start with the definition. First of all, we will see what is Agile Model. Agile SDLC model is a combination of iterative and incremental process models with focus on process adaptability and customer satisfaction by rapid delivery of working software product. Agile methods break the product into small incremental builds. These builds are provided in iterations. Each iteration typically lasts from about 1 to 3 weeks. Every iteration involves cross-functional team working simultaneously on various areas, like these areas are planning, requirement analysis, design, coding, unit testing, and acceptance testing. At the end of the iteration, a working product is displayed to the customer and important stakeholders. So basically, as compared to the previous models, where we have to design and define requirements at the very early stage and build our product afterwards, and it was very difficult to change the product after it has built. So these models are focused on customer satisfaction. So we build our product at very early stage and we deliver that product to our customer or stakeholder. The customer or stakeholder uses that, analyze that product, and then they provide us feedback, and in the next iteration we consider their feedback and improve our product accordingly. So first of all, I am going to define what is Agile. What does Agile actually means? Agile model believes that every project need to be handled differently and the existing methods need to be tailored to best suit the project requirement. In Agile, the tasks are divided to time boxes, small time frames, to deliver specific features for a release. So basically, rather than dividing our whole process or whole system in some steps, we have divided our whole system in small time frames, and these time frames are then repeated or iterated. Iterative approach is taken and working software build is delivered after each iteration. Each build is incremental in terms of features. That is, we are adding certain features in our product at the end of each iteration. The final build holds all the features required by the customer. This is the graphical representation of Agile model. We can see that there are certain steps which are planning, requirement analysis, designing, building, and testing. So we built our product in the early 2 to 3 months, and then after testing that product, we delivered that product to our customer. On the feedback of the customer, we decide what improvements or what areas are to be addressed in the next iteration. So all those phases like planning, requirement analysis, designing, building, and testing are then repeated, and then an incremental build or incremental product is then delivered again to the customer. So this process goes on and on and on until the customer is not satisfied with our product. The agile thought process had started early in the software development and started becoming popular with time due to its flexibility and adaptability. As we see that there is a certain time frame lasts as shown in the picture from 2 to 3 months, and we build one product at each iteration and we add certain increments. It is flexible and adaptable as we can change our product in each iteration or cycle. The most popular agile methods include rational unified process, Scrum, crystal clear, extreme programming, adaptive software development, feature driven development, and dynamic system development method. All these technologies are now collectively referred to as agile methodologies. After the Agile Manifesto, published in 2001, it has certain Agile Manifesto principles. First of all is individuals and interaction, working software, customer collaboration, responding to change. First one is individuals and interaction. In agile development, self-organization and motivation are important, as are interactions like co-locations and pair programming. Second point is working software. Demo working software is considered the best means of communication with the customer to understand their requirements instead of just depending on the documentation. So here, rather than discussing or describing our product or our system on documentation, we built a simple set of software or simple piece of software at very early stage, and so that the customer can build more understanding, because they can understand the software very clearly by using that. Third one is customer collaboration. As the requirements cannot be gathered completely in the beginning of the project due to various factors, continuous customer interaction is very important to get proper product requirements. So basically here there are two different technologies, there are two different things which are working here together. We need to have a business sense, business management sense, and a software development. Basically these are two different things and they have to work together to build the software. So if our customer collaborates us very well and we can understand what actually he wants, then we can deliver him the best according to his requirements. So it is very difficult to assume all the requirements or presume all the requirements at the very early stage or in the beginning of the software. So the customer, as the customer goes through the software, as the customer uses the software, it can point out the flaws, or it can point out those areas which need to be addressed, and we can manage that afterwards. Fourth thing is responding to change. Agile development is focused on quick responses to change and continuous development. Here we are going to differentiate between the Agile model and our traditional SDLC models. Basically, Agile is based on the adaptive software development methods, whereas the traditional SDLC models like the waterfall model is based on predictive approach. As I have discussed earlier, that in those models we have to predict or assumes all the requirements at the very early stage. Predictive teams in the traditional SDLC models usually work with detailed planning and have a complete forecast of the exact task and features to be delivered in the next few months or during the product life cycle. Predictive methods entirely depend on the requirement analysis and planning that is done in the beginning of the cycle. Any changes to be incorporated go through strict change control management and prioritization. Agile uses an adaptive approach where there is no detailed planning and there is a clarity on future tasks only in respect of what features need to be developed. There is feature-driven development and team adapts to the changing product requirements dynamically. The product is tested very frequently through the release iterations, and it minimizes the risk of any major failures in future. So we can easily manage the risk in this by following this model. Customer interaction is the backbone of this agile methodology, and open communication with minimum documentation are typical features of agile development environment. The agile team work in close collaboration with each other and are most often located in the same geographical location. So everything or every model that consists, there are certain advantages of that model and there are also some disadvantages of the model. So in this slide, I am going to discuss the advantages or pros of the Agile model. Agile methods are being widely accepted in the software world recently. However, this method may not always be suitable for all the products. So it is very realistic approach. This advantage is it is very realistic approach of software development, promotes teamwork and cross-training, as it needs a lot of collaboration between all the software team and the customer. Functionality can be developed rapidly and it can be demonstrated. Resource requirements are minimum, as minimum resources are required to follow this model. It is suitable for fixed or changing requirements. It delivers early partial working solution. As I discussed, that we build a software or a piece of software at a very early stage. It is very good model for environments that change steadily. It require minimum rules and documentation can easily employed. It enables concurrent development and delivery within an overall planned context. There is no planning required to follow this model. It is easy to manage and it gives flexibility to developers as they can change and they can have the ability to change the product at any stage. So where a thing has some advantages, it also has some disadvantages. So the first one is it is not suitable for handling complex dependencies, more risk of sustainability, maintainability, and extensibility. An overall plan, an agile leader, and agile PM practice is a must without which it will not work. Strict delivery management dictates the scope, functionality to be delivered, and adjustment to be meet the deadlines. Because we have a certain time frame for each iteration, so we have to deliver something by the end of that time. It depends heavily on customer interaction, so if the customer is not clear, team can be driven in the wrong direction. Because here in this model, the customer has to define the objectives. So if the customer is not very much clear about the objectives, so the team can be misleaded. There is a very high individual dependency since there is minimum documentation generated, and transfer of technology to new team members may quite challenging due to lack of documentation, because we do not do a lot of documentation in this model. So if any change is done in the team members, or any team member left, or you have to join new team, then the new member can face a lot of difficulties in the development of the software. So this was the end of my today's lecture. Hope you understand it all. See you in the next lecture. Allah Hafiz.